All right, we are live. All right, let me change my audience here to friends. Save. How's everybody doing? Everybody, if y'all come in here, y'all share this live out. Let's see. Let me pull up my video on the computer here. All right, and let's see. Facebook.com. Let me go to here and click video.
I'm going to try and get on my computer here instead of my phone because it'd be easier to see you.
Okay, cool. And then you can also share it to let people know you're live.
No problem.
Let's see here. This is cool. Hey, we got 2 viewers in here. Let's get 10 people in here. If we get 10 plus people, I'll be happy. Let's get a bunch of shares. All right, got that pulled up. Let's pull it up here. So we're live in 3 different places, which is cool.
That's very cool.
We're live on Coon Hunters Outdoors Ministries Facebook, my personal page, and the radio station I work for, Quake Radio. We're live on their YouTube page.
Awesome.
Which is cool. That way people on YouTube can watch also. All right, let's see. We go in here. 3 different places. Ministries, Facebook, my personal page, and station I work for, Quake Radio. We're live on their YouTube. All right.
I'm going to be switching here.
Okay, cool. All right, so we got a cool guest, y'all. So y'all stay tuned. This is going to be really, really awesome. Y'all share this live up. Hey, JT Clegg. JT must have shared the post. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, JT. JT's my friend. All right, let's see. Excuse me. Gagging maggots. All right. Appreciate the share, JT there. We got 4 people in here so far. We're fixing to get some more, hopefully. Let me go to the Braves Facebook and copy and paste it. All right, and let's see. Come hang out. Appreciate that on Quake Radio. Yes, thank you, thank you. Quake Radio is king without a crown every day. Aha, there we go. Go in there and click their Facebook, copy. And Stacy will be right back with us. He's swapping over to his computer. So Stacy will be right back with us. He's swapping from his phone to his computer. So I'm fixing to pin their Facebook. If you like metal music, Christian rock, you will love these guys. These guys are awesome. They sound like they're straight out of the 80s, but they started in 1992 was when the band got started from what I was reading on their Facebook. Either Facebook or website. I was reading that yesterday. Either yesterday or the day before when I read that. That's pretty cool. All right, so something's going on down in Evie's little garden. There he is. I love that song. I've played that song hundreds of times. All right.
Yeah, me too.
I bet you can memorize it in your sleep.
Well, yeah, I probably could.
I love that song. I've played that song. All right, let's see. Let me mute that. So we got Jason Katz in the building. Hey, Jason. Jason is the owner of the radio station and he provides the StreamYard program. So thank you, Jason. All
Right
right,
on.
so let's see. Let me go in here. I'm going to paste y'all's Facebook. And one cool thing about StreamYard is I can do this right here. I can click that and it shows y'all's Facebook scrolling across the bottom there. So
Let's see.
everybody
Let me
can,
a little bigger so I can see you. All right.
okay. Let's see. So tell everybody who you are, where you're from, how long you've been doing music.
Well, my name is Stacey, and I'm the singer and guitar player for the Brave. And I've been playing since I was about, well, I've been playing drums since I was about 7 or 8. And then guitar I picked up when I was 15. And I never put it down. So now, what you see in this room here, if I'd gotten home a little earlier, I would have lined these walls with all my guitars, and I'd still have some left over. Um, but I texted you. I was rushing to get home from about an hour away. Finally made it by about 3 minutes. But yeah, I play guitar. I play to the right of me is my keyboard that you hear on all the Brave records since Evie's Little Garden. And I'm sitting at my recording station, which is three 27-inch monitors with a Slate Raven. And this is where I record all my parts. This is where I get all of John's parts and Malcolm's parts ready before I send them to JR to mix. But yeah, I just love playing guitar, love playing music, and I've only always played it for Jesus. So, you know,
That's great. That's awesome. So y'all be sure and go like their Facebook. I just highlighted it on the screen there.
thanks, man.
And yeah, everybody be sure and you go like these guys. These guys are awesome. I've been playing their music for a little while now. I didn't know who y'all were until like 4 or 5 years ago, and I was listening to Revocation Radio out of Birmingham, Alabama, and they were playing y'all's music, and I was like, "What in the world? Who is this? That sounds like they straight from the '80s."
That's
And
everybody says that.
yeah, and then I was like, "Wow!" Then I just started becoming more and more of a fan, and so now I'm fixing to add y'all's music to our station rotation.
Oh, we appreciate it, man. You know, everybody that
And
gets a chance to hear it. We don't we're not able to play out because we live in 3 different states. So John's in Tennessee. He plays drums for Trace Adkins, and he plays for us with us because he was part of the Brave family all the way back from the beginning. Um, and he's
wow,
one of my best buddies, and then my other best buddy is Malcolm, who is in Indiana. He plays bass, and I'm out here in California. So.
wow, man, that sucks. Y'all so far apart.
Well, you know it is. We were together in Tennessee back in August because we were shooting footage for some videos that are about to come out, and just got to hang. It was all of us actually, and Jr., who is the guy that mixes our stuff. So, and he's been a lifelong friend as well. So, um, we're not always together, but for about 4 or 5 days we were, and it was wonderful.
Oh, I bet it was. I bet that was awesome. Because so y'all have been a band since '92.
Well, the band has existed since '92, but it's had different incarnations. As a matter of fact, until I started singing, I was the first guy to ever sing on two Brave records because James sang on one, wonderful vocalist, just a great singer, great front man. And then when he left, my little brother, who was the drummer on the first record, stepped up and he became the singer. We were an all vocal band, so everybody sang, but everybody had, James was the best one, in my opinion, out of at the time that we started. When we originally started the band, my little brother wasn't in it. It was me and James and three other people that didn't and Malcolm, me, James, and Malcolm, and then two other people that didn't last. When they left, we brought Freddie and we brought my brother in, but we were a 5-part vocal group. So whenever we'd play out, people were always wondering where the samples were. But we were always singing live. So we prided ourselves on being like a Journey type Foreigner band with a message that we were huge Striper fans. I mean, especially me. I became friends with Michael Sweet
Oh
on their
man,
second record, which blew my mind. I mean, I'm one of the only people that have sat in a room at midnight with me and my brother playing acoustic with Michael, and the three of us harmonizing on "Lady." So that was pretty cool.
wow, that
Um,
is epic.
but yeah, so what happened was James left, and then Randy came in and sang, then left, and then we were on hiatus until about 2014, and we tried to get things going again, but I didn't have the gear that I have now, and about honestly, I didn't know if we were ever going to make another Brave record because I didn't know where anybody was, and then as fate would have it, I got back in touch with John, and he heard me sing, and he was like, "Dude, you sound like Randy," and I go, I hear that every now and again, but I never had any intention of singing at all. I was always the guy that would write the songs and then teach the melody to whoever was singing for us. We had a girl singer in 2014, phenomenal singer, but we just didn't have the budget to do it the right way. So 2019 rolls around, and I got back in touch with Malcolm and got back in touch with John. And John said, we should maybe make a record. And I said, okay, well, I got some songs. So I only had about 4 songs, and I wrote the rest of them, and we put it together, and it turned out really. That's what ended up being Evie's Little Garden, and we've been going strong ever since. So
That is great. Speaking of Striper, they're my favorite band of all time, and I collect their CDs. And I finally got to meet them at the when they were doing their show for their last album, and it was great. They were phenomenal. They were super nice to me. I ain't gonna lie, I nerded out. I was like, oh my gosh, it's Michael Sweet. It's like, oh my gosh. And they're the reason. So my Bible verse I use is Isaiah 53:5, King James.
yep,
The short version is by our stripes we're healed. So
yep, yep,
because of them, I have that verse for my ministry. And that's cool that they, since 1979 or whenever it was, they've always used that on all their albums.
yep. Yeah, Michael. There was no social media when I met him, right? So he didn't have to deal with all these people that he deals with now. And I know, Stryper just got they were really big. They were one of the few rock bands out of the 80s that were just really, really superiorly talented. A lot of these bands were a joke that got a record deal. They'd have one good guy in the band and then nobody else was good. This is in secular music. And Stryper was firing on all 4 cylinders. So as I as I got to finally meet Michael, you would never have heard a band called The Brave if Stryper didn't exist, because they were my biggest
Wow.
influence. When I met him, he pulls up in his Mustang at the studio. We were at Pachyderm down in Dana Point in California. Now this is down in the southern part of California, where it's just gorgeous. It's great weather all the time, palm trees and stuff. Here he comes flying in, and he's playing "Waiting" off our first album. And he comes in, he tells me, he goes, "Bro, those harmonies sound kind of familiar." And I started laughing. I'm like, because I write all the songs, right? And I wrote that song. And I
Uh-huh.
said, "Well, Mike, I mean, I hope it's the sincerest form of flattery, because that was totally written like a Stryper song. Maybe a cross between Bon Jovi and Stryper, but he could not have been cooler. These days, people don't really know how to size Michael up, because um, you can't read somebody's emotions or their intent or their sense of humor in text. And I see a lot of times, I think he might seem like he's coming across like he's mad at somebody, but he's not. He's one of the coolest guys I've ever met in my life.
Oh yes.
And created a band with his brother that my wife is a way hardcore Stryper fan. We went to see him at the Whiskey with Fear Not, which is it's a world
Oh
famous
yes. Yes.
club that we've played at a couple times down in Hollywood. And we went I think it was last June or July. And Larry from Fear Not said, "You got to come down, bro." So I went down there. I hadn't seen him in years, and I never got to see him because I had to drive almost 4 hours to get there. And we were wore out, man. After Striper was done, I was like, "We gotta, we gotta crash, man. I'm an old dude now." So, but yeah, they still are kicking live. They still sound great. They're still amazing to watch. And Michael can still do it. I mean, Oz was there, and what a year they had leading up to it with his brain surgery and stuff. Michael's eye problems. I mean, they doesn't matter what they get hit with. They just keep on coming back swinging.
And
But yeah, one of my favorite bands too. And Christian rock, they're absolutely my favorite band. So
oh yeah, said if it wasn't for bands like them and Petra, there would be no. And my only negative when I saw them in concert, me and John that's watching, my buddy John that helps me in my ministry,
hey, John.
we we went up there. Hey Tony, and we went up there and saw them at the Hard Rock Casino in Biloxi, Mississippi. And you just don't think when you go to a casino, it's not Christian environment at all. But to
Right.
see Striper play Jesus music in front of thousands of lost people that's there for gambling and whatever else,
Right. Right.
that was so cool to see that. And like I nerded out, I've got the Striper devotional that I bought from their website, and I met Robert and all of them. And Robert was so cool to me. He was so nice. And hey, brother, where you want me to sign this? And I showed it to him, and then I gave each and every one of them a little pocket cross. My little pocket crosses I give out for my ministry.
Oh,
And
that's
then I'm
cool.
talking with Michael and Oz Fox, and then Perry Richardson. And sad that
Tim.
Timothy Gaines isn't with them no
Right.
more. But I understand they had a big blowing up, whatever. And but they were so nice to me. And I hate the security guard at the casino rushed us through the line so fast, but that was still that was one of the highlights of my life was meeting them, and they were so nice to me. And I showed them the back of my ministry shirt, which is actually I got it right here. This has the got my logo and the Bible verse on back, and then the logo on the front. And I was showing that to Michael. I said, "Look, if it wasn't for y'all, I wouldn't have that verse as my ministry." And they thought it was the coolest thing. And then about halfway through with the concert, I got to looking up, and I took my phone out, and I was like, "Wait a second." I looked at Oz over there, and they're always known for their for their black and yellow attire. And Oz had a black and yellow vest on. I look over, and he had one of my pocket crosses that I give him attached to his vest. And
That's
I
so
thought that was
cool.
the coolest thing ever. And then a few weeks later, I look on Facebook, and I still see him wearing that same vest, and that pocket cross is still on that vest. I'm like, wow.
Oz is the best, man.
So do you know Joseph Rojas, lead singer of 7 Day Slumber?
Malcolm does. I don't, but Malcolm spoke with him quite a bit. He knows him, but I don't know him. No.
So I'm on their street team, and 7 Day Slumber has been doing Christian music 25 years or so. And Joseph was live one day, and I was commenting on the live about Striper. And he had this whole elaborate story, and I'm not going to try to tell the whole story because I'll probably butcher it. But he was talking about they were playing a show with Striper and maybe the Newsboys somewhere, and he was talking about how he was in the bathroom using the urinal, and he's like, he looks over, and Oz Fox is right next to him. I was like, oh man! And he talked about how awkward of a moment that was, but then he's like, you know what? That's Oz Fox.
Well, it's funny. That's when I first met Rex Carroll was in a restroom. We were doing a show with him back in Chicago sometime in 92 or 93. There wasn't much to say, but we we were playing with him, and that was kind of cool. It's funny, after James left, before I wanted Randy to be our replacement singer when James left after the Battle Cries tour, and John Elefante, who was one of our producers, he was very specific about his singers. He loved James's voice, and he had heard Randy a little bit, but he wasn't really impressed at the time. But we kept doing these shows. Well, so I went down right after the first tour, and I cut all the guitar tracks. Everything's ready, no singer. So they're like, "Well, what are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, I keep telling you guys, Randy's the guy." Well, Dino and John both balked at that at first, but then we started playing shows around California with Guardian and with Novella, with Holy Soldier, whoever we could get a gig with, we did it. I don't think we ever did acoustic show with Holy Soldier, but we did play with them as a full band before James left. I think actually before we even got signed. And we at some point Michael suggested Oz because Striper had just broken up. And then John and Dino called us in and said, Oz is available. Why don't you guys, he's a great singer. Why don't you go meet with him? So we took a meeting. It was just me and a 15-year-old Freddie and Oz Fox meeting at a Denny's in somewhere like Glendale, somewhere down here. And we sat and talked for a couple hours. He had heard our stuff and loved it. And we had heard his voice and we loved his voice. but he was going through too much personal stuff at the time, so it just wasn't a good fit at the time. But he was so gracious to meet with us, and Freddie had just come from Hawaii. I'd only known him 2 years. I taught him how to play guitar, and here's his idol sitting across the table from us. I mean, he was a huge Striper fan. So this is in 1992. So Striper was still red hot, and but it wasn't to be. It didn't work out. But he
Wow.
couldn't have been cooler, man. It was a really neat thing.
That is a cool story right there.
Yeah.
How long have you known them?
Since then, I had actually, before we got a record deal, I have a picture of there's a festival that goes on out here and in Nashville once a year called the NAMM Show. And at the NAMM Show, that's where I owned a music store with my wife, my now wife. At the time, she wasn't my wife, but that's how I met her. Is I bought into her and her husband's store. And much years later, we're both divorced, and we ended up, seeing each other again and got married. So I was at this NAMM show, and you would go to it as a music dealer, or you would beg somebody to get you tickets so you could go there. Because back in the 80s and early 90s, there were so many rock stars. So you could go down there and see Ronnie James Dio in one hall, and right behind him is Def Leppard walking around. You can go up and meet them and stuff like that. Well, I had been to about 20 of these things over the course of 20 years. And I have a picture of me with Tony Palacios from Guardian, Oz Fox, and Michael Sweet, who were just walking into the NAMM show. This is a year
Wow.
before we got signed. So this is probably 1990. And I take a picture with them, and I didn't know that 2 years later I'd be friends with all three of them. So
That's
it was pretty
awesome.
neat. Yeah. This is when Michael's hair was like down to his knees. He had the best hair in the world. So did Tony. Palacios had great hair too. But Oz was more like mine, fuzzy.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Speaking of Guardian, that's another Christian rock group that are legendary and instrumental of people.
They're the reason we got a record deal. If not for Guardian, we wouldn't have gotten signed because like I was saying about my brother, we were playing all these shows everywhere, and everyone that would come back to Pachyderm would tell John and Dino, "You got to let Randy sing. You got to let Randy. This guy's a killer." And so finally, they gave him a shot about 6 months later, and we never looked back. So we're going full bore, and we would have made we had a 5 album deal, so we would have made another 3 albums. But Pachyderm built a studio in Nashville and shut down Pachyderm and moved to Nashville. So the only way you could stay on the label is to move back there. But I couldn't do that because I owned a company at the time. So we just
Wow.
amicably parted ways. Still friends with John and Dino to this day. Um, but the thing is, we kept playing shows before we got a record deal. We kept playing around, right? And whoever would come back to Pachyderm would say, "Did you go to a show this weekend?" They'd say, "Yeah." And they go, "Well, see anybody good?" And they'd say, "No." And then they'd go, "Well, there was this one band." Then we got a buddy of mine named Dave Priest. He does the Metal Priest show. He has a podcast, and he has a radio show. Good friend of mine to this day. He booked us a show. He was promoting at the time, and he booked us a show with Guardian in my hometown. So we went and played it. And after the show, Tony comes up to me and he goes, "Why haven't you guys gotten a hold of John and Dino yet?" And I said, "Well, I mean that's the only place we want to be is on Pachyderm." And about 2 or 3 weeks later, we were going to be playing a show at the Whiskey. Funny enough, and might have been the Roxy. I think it was the Whiskey, but they sent their A&R guy down to finally come hear us after hearing about us for a year. And I think I'm sorry, I take this out of order. After that show with Guardian, a couple weeks later, we had a show at our hometown with a band called Seventh Seal. Well, the word had gotten out that John Elefante was interested in this band. They were an all-black band. They were a really good band. One of the guitar players, still a friend of mine to this day, Mel Booker. And we opened up for him. And John, sure enough, showed up. He drove all the way out to come hear him. And we were always closing our show with "Carry On My Wayward Son" by Kansas. And being a
Oh,
five-part vocal
cool.
band, we nailed it. I mean, I heard Rachel's version, and that's all fine and everything, but we nailed it. So, and John heard it, so I didn't even know he was there. So we're tearing everything down. I sat and watched the whole Seven Seal thing, and then one of the guys in the band knew I wanted to meet John, and he comes over and he goes, "Hey, Stacey, come over here. I want you to meet someone." And I looked up, and there's John Elefante, one of my heroes, definitely one of my vocal heroes. One of my probably top five with Steve Perry and a couple other people. And I walked over and shook his hand. He goes, "Hey man, I really like that closing song." And I started laughing. I said, "Thanks." A week later, Ron Goldner, their A&R guy, calls us and says, "Hey, John heard you guys and he really liked what he liked what he heard." And I said, "Well, thanks, man. That's great." The week after that, Dino Elefante called me, and I was about to just drop over, sideways dead. And they followed us for about a year. I mean, they didn't just grab us and say, "You guys are great." um, we had changed. We had a keyboard player when John saw us. He left, and Freddie came in, and so did my brother. Excuse me. And so they sent Ron Goldner a year later to go see us at that whiskey show, and he came up and said, "I think this is going to work." A week later, we go and we had go into this room, and we have to. They rented out this hall, and we went and set up, and we played. Now picture this. Did you ever see the movie Goodfellas or The Godfather?
I think I've seen The Godfather, but not, I don't remember much about it.
Okay, well, you're familiar with what the mafia feels like, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's what this was like, because it was just my band, two Italians, and a guy we didn't know who it was, but it was their financial guy, David Del Sesto. They don't say a word. They just come in and sit down. And they go ahead. We're like, "Oh, whoa, okay." So we just played like we were playing at the Forum. After it was done, they could not have been cooler and funnier, but we were stressed out because we're like, "They haven't said two words to us." And but they that started it off. And a couple weeks later, we were signed to them, and we did those two albums. And then when we reignited it in 2019, the response was great. I mean, when Eevees came out, I mean, I didn't even know we had that many fans still out there. I didn't know people even remembered us. But I never wanted to end the Brave not on my terms. And when it ends, it will be on my terms, because I'll be the one that says that, we're finished. Or if John or Malcolm comes and says, "I don't want to do it with anybody else. I only want to do it with the two of them." Um, because we all love each other. We all get along. We all love Jesus, and it's easy. There's no drama. There's no stress. And, bands can be tough like that. Bands can be, don't think that the Brave hasn't had its fair share of drama in it, because it has. But everyone that's ever been in the band, I've loved every one of them. I've always appreciated their talents. I've always written music. I've always written songs to highlight whatever they were good at. James had a great range, so I wrote for that range. My brother had a good range, but music had just changed into grunge. Fortunately, he had that kind of gritty voice, and that was kind of working out. Wasn't really where I wanted to be, because I didn't like grunge at all. I didn't. I only liked a few bands, and they were few and far between. I'm a melody guy. I like when people say we sound like the '80s. It makes me laugh, because we didn't get signed until the '90s, but we do have that '80s. We do have that. I mean, I'm not making any excuses. I loved the '80s, one of the best times musically ever. But I'm also just as equally enamored with the '70s. You know, so I mean, the music when I write it, it turns out the way it does, because when I send the tracks to John and Malcolm, I don't tell them what to do. They just show off their talent. They take it and absorb it and add their. It's like making a cake. I mean, I might pick out the flavor, but then they go and put the icing and the sprinkles on it and stuff. But what you hear in the end is not me dictating it. I do produce the music, because I have to have things the way that I like them. Fortunately for me, Malcolm and John are the type of musicians where, I mean, you don't have. They're seasoned. They're like me. We've just been playing forever. We know each other. So I mean, we feed up. Like when I send them a track and it comes back, a lot of times I'll change all of my guitars because of something cool that they did that I'm going to respond to. But it's very democratic. It's very. We just do our thing. It turns out sounding the way
That's
it sounds.
that's awesome. So you've been doing this so long, you can do it backwards blindfolded.
Well, I read Jonathan Cain's book, and he said whenever he got together to write with Neil Schon and Steve Perry, and the Journey is one of my favorite bands. The Beatles is my all-time favorite band. But if I had to pick 10 of all-time bands, there's probably five or six, maybe four or five, 4 to 6 of my all-time favorite bands that are Christian bands. Bride's one of them. I love Dale Thompson's voice. We toured with them during Snakes in the Playground. Battle Cries was up,
Wow.
and we probably played a half dozen shows with them. And I was on the floor watching this guy sing, because there were no limits. He could do anything. Even now, when I hear him, I mean, he's maybe not the same old Dale, but he's still got all that passion and fire and thunder and range. But we saw them when they were in their prime, and like your Cross your story about the Cross with Oz, we played with them at Cornerstone. Or no, it wasn't. It may have been Cornerstone. It was either that or no, it was Creation Fest back in 91 or 92. We went on before them, and he comes on, and he's got his hat on backwards, and when he turns it around, it's one of our hats. And I
Oh,
mean,
cool.
I was like winning a Grammy, man. I was like, that is just the coolest thing.
That is
So,
so cool. You know, back
yeah,
then, I'm sure that was like, oh my gosh, did you just see what he just did? That just put us on the map.
it blessed our hearts, is what it did. What I was saying about this, the Jonathan Cain book, he said that when they had gotten back together in 1995, it's those same old songwriting things. When him and Neil and Steve Perry would get together, they said they could, I say this because it reminds me of what you said. You could do it in your sleep. Well, that's what he said. He goes, we started writing these songs, and it's like we could do it in our sleep. It just all fits. And musically, there's an alchemy that you look for. You know, I've always been open to writing with other people, but I don't run across a lot of people that write. And Luke Easter always kids me and says that I go home at lunch and write 3 songs and then go back to work. And that's not, I wish that were true, but I do write relatively quick. But I have co-written with people in the past, and I love doing it. I mean, it's really cool to hear somebody else's input that takes something somewhere else. But if I'm by myself, I'm fine doing that as well. I mean, it's what I've done
So,
forever. I write songs. That's what I do. You know.
so my buddy Norman's got a question. Thanks for watching, Norman. So
Hey
Norman's
Norm,
asking, he says, what's he think of the current formula? He says, like the Morgan Wallen song style.
for country music.
That's a good, yeah, yeah, for country or just in general, Norman. Let's see. Yeah, seeing if he
I mean,
says,
I'm a big country music fan. I'm a huge George Strait fan. I am from Texas, like I told you, y'all. You know, I still remember people saying, "Hey, did you get any rain out your way?" And I'm going, "Dude, I live right next to you. Why would I get it my way, but not, at your house?" Um, Morgan Wallen. Well, the current country scene, I'm a fan of some of it, but not all of it, because I don't like hip hop, which is when you bring in the hip hop stuff and make it country. It's not my thing. I mean, I like authentic. I like George Strait. I like Alan Jackson, Clint Black, all those guys from the '90s. That was when I think what happened was, and that's a good question. What do I think of it? It just depends on the song. I mean, that guy's a great singer, and some of his songs are cool, but he's not the top of the heap of
and
guys I
see,
like in country music.
and I listen to a lot of country music. Norman says, love the voice, but I completely agree. So I listen to country music, but what I can't stand is, like you said, pop music in country.
Yeah,
I hate pop music. And
yeah.
unless it's like Christian pop, then I'm okay with that. But pop music does not belong in country music. Most of that stuff sounds like garbage. They say it's a country radio station, but then they play pop songs with a pop beat. I don't like that. And I listen to Christian rap, I listen to country rap, all that stuff, but I cannot stand a country song or they quote country and it's got pop beats in it.
Well, when you send Beyonce down to become country artist of the year, no one buys into that. It's
That's
like
right.
if
That's right.
if you don't have it in your DNA. I mean, I had two choices. I could either go country or play Christian rock, and it was Christian rock.
Hey Brent, how you doing?
Hey, Brett.
Yeah, Norman says I agree. It's wild and it's forgettable lyrics.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Yeah, you got
It's
to say
just
something that
it's
means something.
yeah, I like the real when it comes to country music, I like steel guitar. I
Yeah.
like the banjo. I like all that stuff that makes it a real country song. Not that bromance country, I just not
Well, and
me.
as a country, when I do play country guitar, and I do play a lot of it, it's funny because I'm looking at a picture of my Butterscotch Telecaster, which I got specifically for chicken picking. The Brent Mason type of playing, that's the stuff I like to do. Um, I like the fact, because what happened was there was a segue in the 90s. In the early 90s, melodic, anthemic rock went out of style, and here comes angry grunge from middle class kids who were mad at the world, right? And what happened was when we lost all that arena rock, Nashville decided to start changing country music to kind of be like that. So a lot of us converted to country music because it got a lot more slick, but it was sing alongable. The choruses were more catchy. You still had a place where God could fit into the picture. Alan Jackson would come along and talk about, family and God, and there was room for him. And I think that attracted a lot of. I'm sure it caught my ear, and that's when I really, really started to enjoy a lot of the country bands. But I like old traditional stuff like "Asleep at the Wheel" and Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys.
Oh yeah.
Because I heard that stuff growing up. I love Waylon and Willie, and my favorite country bands, the ones that did come out that had. Okay, I do make one exception for the hip hop, and that would have been when Florida Georgia Line first came out. I really dug some of the stuff they wrote because it was catchy songs. You got to
Yes.
have something. You got to bring something to the table. And if all you're doing is bringing regurgitated, samples to the table and then trying to make something rhyme over it, I'm not a guy who's impressed by rap. I'm just not. Rhyming two sentences together doesn't seem to me like that big of a chore. It seems like something a lot of people could do, but there's a couple people that stand out, but it's not my cup of tea. I like music. You can't
Sure.
listen to the Eagles and Creedence Clearwater and the Beatles. That's what I was raised on. The Beatles, Creedence, Electric Light Orchestra, Fleetwood Mac. That's the stuff that's in my DNA. And then when the 80s came along, I absorbed all the Bon Jovi. That everybody says I sound like him. Well, there's probably a reason for that. Me and Luke Easter, we met in after Evie's Little Garden. That's how we actually met. Was talking about the album, and he was the singer for Tourniquet, and now he's done a little bit of everything. But we were talking about what big Bon Jovi fans we were, and I think the reason is just the songs. There were a lot of people who had a singer or had a guitar player, but if you don't have songs that I talk about this a lot in all the podcasts or interviews that I do. I'm all about the school of if you're stuck in traffic and you're listening to music, you should be singing along to it. That's why our courses are always big and anthemic, is because I want you to have a good time. If you're going to take your time and invest a moment or two listening to the Brave, I want you to enjoy it. I want you to be part of it. I want you to sing along. You know,
Hey Mark, how
that's
you doing, brother? Hey, I agree. You gotta enjoy it, and um, so on the country thing. So me and my dad, I bought 2 or 3 years ago. I wanted to do something really nice for him because he's done a lot for me. Like me and my dad's like this, and
that's cool.
so I bought my dad tickets to the Temple Theater in Meridian, which is in Meridian, Mississippi, and it's takes about an hour and 30 minutes to get there. It's not that far, and hour and 20, hour and 30 minutes. And this place called the Temple Theater has been in business for over 100 years, 18 something or whatever. Whenever it was built, it's a basically an antique theater where they used to do theatrical plays and all kind of stuff.
That's
Well, they
cool.
do they do all kind of concerts there, and you can tell when you walk in there, it's old because when you walk in and look beside where they sell the expensive popcorn and the expensive soft drinks, you look over the side and they've got autographed pictures of every artist who's anybody who's ever played there.
Oh
And
man,
they're all autographed pictures like George Jones, the Oak Ridge Boys. I've seen the Oak Ridge Boys there twice. And then we saw country legend T. Graham Brown and the other one, which is T.G. Shepherd, which T.G. Shepherd's
J.G.
not his real
Shepard, yeah.
name. And the cool thing about both of those guys, and then also trying to think of the other guy that opened for him, Jeff Bates. Jeff
All
Bates
right,
and the Southern, forgot his last name. Anyways, all three of those bands are Christian bands, which are really cool. And T. Graham Brown has a gospel album, and I bought his gospel album on CD. I got it autographed over here on the wall. And then I found out T.G. Shepherd's like a huge Christian, and each artist took the time out of their show, and of course, to tell people about Jesus. Like they stopped doing the music, and they had this awesome, powerful testimony what God's done for them, which was super awesome. And then when all the concert was over, they went out and they signed autographs for everybody until everybody left. And I thought that was the coolest thing. I was like, dude, I just met T. Graham Brown and T.G. Shepherd
Oh
both
yeah,
have had number one hits on the Billboard charts.
it's
And
totally
when
cool.
you say Billboard, that's like the biggest there is. And so I think T. Graham Brown had like 20. It was either him or T.G. Shepherd had 21 number one hit songs on the radio or something like that. And T. Graham Brown's biggest hit was his song "Water into Wine." Have you heard that song?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, so your listeners know I know who all these people are. I mean, from Mo Bandy and Joe Stampley, I grew up on that stuff. You know,
And you know,
I've heard
for
every country band that there could possibly be. So
and
Earl Thomas
people
Conley, I mean,
should
you name it, I've heard them. So yeah, of course I know who that is.
so people need to look up T. Graham Brown's song "Water into Wine" and watch the original music video from I think it was like 81, 82, whenever that song come out. No, actually, no, it was later than that when it come out. But watch the music video
Oh, it's a
and
great
listen
song.
close to the story. It's powerful because he basically and he told the story. He said that he had an alcohol and drug problem, and he woke up. He woke up one day. He had passed out from a. He was had one too many to drink and had a bunch of drugs or something, and passed out. And he woke up from it and lying in the floor. And he says, well, basically, he don't want to live that lifestyle no more. So he gave it to God, and then he wrote that song when God saved him and changed his life. That was the early '90s, late '80s, early '90s, and that song ended up going number one in the country, which is
Yeah,
pretty awesome. I love stories
that's
like
awesome.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sad sometimes when God comes through for people, they forget the discussions. You know, God didn't forget, but a little success comes your way and you forget how you got there.
That's
And
right.
you know, it's one of the things I always thought was so great about Mike from Striper is he's always the same. He was never he was never arrogant. He was never, but boy, you put him on that stage and he knew how to do his thing. Um, when he was doing his first show since Striper. He was doing a closed thing just to run through the set. My brother and I actually helped him put together his solo band because he came into the studio. So he was making his first Michael Sweet solo record in Studio B in Pakenham, and we were in Studio A working on Trust. So we became good friends. I've been to his house and stuff like that. And he introduced me to sushi, and as far as I got was California rolls. So I wouldn't say I'm hardcore sushi, but that's where I learned how good it tastes. And he would come to the studio and he says, "Guys, do you have any recommendations for a bass player?" And we were like, "Yeah, Scott Harper from Whitecross. You got to contact him." Gave him his phone number. Well, what about drums? And I said, "Well, you know, Jamie Wallam's playing on Trust. He plays for Tears for Fears now, but at the time he had played on our Trust album because my brother had moved to the front to sing." And he goes, "What about guitar?" And that was 100% me. I said, "Dude, there's only one guy that you need to go get, and his name is Dennis Cameron from Angelica." And he, sure enough, invited me down to come down and see a rehearsal. And there was Scott Harper, there was Jamie Wallam, and there was Dennis Cameron. And I got to go meet him, which was really really cool.
Wow.
And but anyways, when he debuted the live band, it was in a closed theater, and he said, "I want you to come with me to this thing." So I went with him. He sits me on the side of the stage. Robert's out in the audience. Janice Sweet and his sister Lisa are out there. I knew all of them. And he was coming over. He's singing these songs and would come over and lean down to me and go, "Earl, I'm nervous." And I go, "You're Michael Sweet. What are you nervous for? I'm sitting over here like a chicken on the edge of the stage. I'm the one that's nervous." But yeah, he just killed it. The guy has so much talent. It was crazy. Crazy.
And you know, I've got some of his solo albums on CD, especially his newest one, and he is really good. And then, of course, with George Lynch from Lynch Mob, he does
Yeah.
Sweet and Lynch. Those are great too.
Yeah. Yeah. I fixed George's Pro Tools rig over the phone for him one time.
Wow, that's cool.
A buddy of mine was down there engineering, and he called me. He goes, "Me and George are stuck." So I go, "George, man, I love the Lynch Mob stuff." And he goes, "Well, I'm working on one right now, but if you can't help me fix Pro Tools, there won't be another one." So I did. I helped him.
So my buddy Norman, this comment, Norman's in a band, and Norman, I got to get you some of the Braves music. You will love these guys. These guys are awesome. Like these guys are legendary.
Oh, I don't know about that, but thank you.
So are y'all so are you doing music full time with the Brave, or since y'all live in different states, probably not?
No, we all, we all have different things. Malcolm's in IT. John is Trace Adkins is drummer, and I own a grocery store with my wife. So there's one of the things about not having a record deal is we just decide what we're going to do and we fund it ourselves and we do it. We don't owe anybody anything. I own all of our songs. I own all the publishing, and we don't play live, not because we don't want to, but because we're just not near each other. We've been invited a couple times. We were actually going to play Immortal Fest 2 years ago, and it was looking pretty good. Freddie was back in the band. Malcolm was in. John was in, and we were rehearsing online together, which was kind of working out. It wasn't too bad. We were going to use the keyboard player from Sacred Warrior, who volunteered. Great guy, reached out to me and said, "Hey man, I know you need keyboards. I'd be glad to help out." So we were going to try and make it work, but Trace changed the schedule, and they knew up front that we didn't know what would happen with John's schedule, and I won't play with anybody else. And I know a lot of great drummers. I'm still friends with all the guys I've ever played with. Um, One of our old drummers plays for a great drummer, just phenomenal drummer, plays with the Commodores. And then, of course, Jamie plays with Tears for Fears and John with Trace Adkins. I should probably have been a drummer. I'd probably have a better gig than, selling bananas, but no, just kidding. I have a pretty good gig. Hey, my gig pays for all this room full of gear that I've got here. So, cool stuff like this, which you heard all over the last two records.
Wow, that is cool.
So
Is that an
uh,
American made guitar?
it's Paul Stanley, Ibanez, and
Oh, yeah, American
but
made's the
behind me
way to
I've got
go.
my American Les Paul, my Eddie Van Halen Wolfgang, my I don't know if you can see it, but there's my 5150 Stealth amplifier with the same mod
Oh,
on it
that's
that
cool.
it's got the same mod that Eddie had on their last tour. So, but yeah, this is where I make all the music from right here. If I'm home, I'm in this room. But as far as us, we were invited again this year to play Immortal Fest. I was in Texas. Yeah, I was in Dallas, Texas in September, and I met with Dorn. That's where I actually got to sit down and have dinner with him and a friend of his. Great people. And he had mentioned, that we'd love to do it, but if I can't rehearse with my band, I won't give somebody a secondary version of the Brave.
Yeah.
When the Brave would play out, we sounded like the record because we rehearsed our tails off. At
Wow.
the time, I owned a music store with my wife, like I said, and we'd rehearse 4 nights a week after the store closed. So we were a well-oiled band. We were worth coming to see. But that's how we got gigs with bands like Guardian and Bride and some. Is we really brought it when we played. And if we can't do that, I will not set foot on a stage to do it halfway. You
I
guys
don't blame
deserve
you.
better. You guys deserve better. And would we sound like the album? Yeah, I'd need a couple more people because those I sing all the backgrounds and they're not going to sing themselves. And I need a keyboard player
Well,
because I can't play guitar and keyboards and sing. Um, because on our albums, I do all the keyboards. I do all of the however many guitars I decide to play, and I write the songs and I sing them. And it's a tall order. I would hate to give somebody a secondary version of what I know we could do. So if God
well,
has
my
other
bucket
plans, then
list.
then He'll help make the arrangements.
Yeah, you guys are on my bucket list to see live.
We're on my bucket list to see live, and I'm in the band.
I can't wait to see y'all live, or maybe one day touring again. That would be so cool.
It was a lot of fun. I mean, it's a strange thing for people that haven't got to who haven't got to tour. It's a really cool thing to be in a different town every day and not know where you're going, not knowing what the place even looks like, and then you show up. We went on two legs of the Battle Cries tour, and on the second one, we repeated some of the places we'd previously played. And it was neat. There was a place called the New Union in Minneapolis that we just loved, and the people there could not have been cooler. And we rocked that place every time we played there. It was a really fun place to play at. There's a couple places in Chicago that were really cool to play. We went up. I think we went through 32 states in about 3 months, but it's a lot. By the time we got home, we were ready to come home. So these bands have gotten to do it for a year. I don't know how you do it unless you've got really um, a
Good
lot of patience.
finances.
Yeah.
So Norman, yes, Norman, they've got a YouTube. So I've got
We
their
do.
YouTube scrolling at the bottom of the screen. I'm gonna send you some of their videos, man. Evie's Little Garden's a good video. I've always wondered. Man, I love that. So I just love that song, man.
Well, it's funny. That song was one of the ones we pitched to John and Dina when we got signed, but they passed on it. They passed on, and not because they didn't like the songs, but they just had a certain place that they knew that we could make a bigger impact. I've never judged them for that. I mean, I love those guys. They were a lot of fun to be around, and they put us on the map. I mean, without no John and Dino, there's no us. With no Guardian, there's no us. With no Striper, there's no us. You know, we were fortunate enough to be able to play with just a ton of bands and make some lifelong friends. Me and Larry Worley are still good buddies, and
So
Luquista's a new friend. And, you know,
talk about that song, what it's about.
for I've always wondered.
Yes.
Well, one of the things about how songs come to me is I always tell people that as a songwriter, and I'm sure that other people that write songs feel the same way. When you sit down to write, you're not sitting down to write. You're sitting down to receive, particularly if you are connected to God. And I feel like sometimes if I don't sit down and I know there's music in me, so if I sit down and I start writing, it flows out of me. The lyrics, I mean, Evie's Little Garden was maybe a 30-second write for that chorus. It just all was there. And so I received, it was like God just handing it to you, right? And if I don't sit down and do my due diligence, he's going to give that song to somebody else. That's how it feels. I don't know if that's how it is, but that's how it feels to me.
Sure.
Um, and so when I wrote that song, uh, the riff came first, and if I have a riff first, the song writes itself because I just start singing, and whatever I'm singing to it, that's what it is. I mean, I might have to, tweak some lyrics and stuff like that. But one of the things that came to me was, you know, for example, we've got three Christmas songs out, and this next year, I hope, because we got a little bit of downtime, we can finish up the Christmas album we've tried to be putting out for the last 3 years. But one of the songs that I'm going to work on, sometimes I have a preconceived idea. And one of the ideas I have is you've heard Mary, Did You Know? You hear about people talk about the mother of Jesus, but I don't think I've heard anybody talk about what was Joseph going through. Here's the guy who had
Oh,
to take the news from his wife that, hey, I'm going to be with kid and it's not yours, but he is yours. But I don't really know how to explain this. What a faithful guy, to have to
oh
sit there
yes.
and not only receive the news, but then for 30 years, he raised him, right? So part of the way Jesus turned out, God also picked Joseph because he knew he needed that influence in his life while he was on this earth. And I think that's a powerful message. Well,
Yes.
in answer to your question on, I've always wondered, I just started singing. And so I had the guitar and I just hit the, oh, we're out of tune. So I've always wondered what my life would be like if he had not died for me. So it came out just like that with all those words. I didn't struggle for it. I didn't try to get it. It was just there. So
Wow.
what the song was about was I always wondered, I mean, not to be making a little joke of saying the words, but what would it have been like if he hadn't died for us? You could think of a lot of things. What if so and so wouldn't have came into my life? How would my life be? What if this person wouldn't have influenced me when I was 18 years old? What if I hadn't accepted Christ? But what if I didn't have that option? What if it was just you're on your own? You live, you die, that's it. But that ain't how it is. And we all know that. If you've benefited from the love of Christ or you've been born again and you know that we're in a pass through right here. This is just where God has us. We affect who we can, we talk to who we can, we love who we can, we forgive who we can, we teach who we can, we lean on who we can. What if he wouldn't have died for us? What would we have? Instead, we've got a lifelong debate with the believers with how we should believe, and then the non-believers with how can you not believe? You know, I have sit and had conversations with people And the one thing they get from me is I don't judge you for whatever your views are, but I will tell you. I mean, I've talked to people that say that, well, I don't believe in anything. And I go, well, isn't that a belief? Well, I mean, no, that's not what I
Oh.
mean. I have a guy that works for me that's a Satanist. He's one of the nicest guys I've met in a while, but he's really lost. And I'm like, well, that's exactly why this guy's here. I know exactly why he's here because we're going to have these conversations with no judgment. And, the word of God says that God draws all men unto himself by his spirit. It ain't by me. If I'm in a situation with him, then thank God that I'm even allowed to be used to that degree. But my whole life has been people coming and talking to me about my faith, but I never asked them to. I never had to because God drew them to me by his spirit. I'm nothing. I'm nobody, man. I'm just a leaf in the wind, but I happen to play guitar and I happen to write songs and I happen to like to write them about my creator. So that song was completely about that. It was, when I start knowing what the song is going to be about, God just reveals it. It's, I'm not setting the world on fire by any stretch, but I am. There are some new bands out that I really like. There's one band, I think they're out of Oklahoma. They're called Chaotic Resemblance.
Yes,
Man, what a great
those guys are
album.
phenomenal.
What a great this last album they put out. My wife and I were listening
Oh,
to it this morning, and there's not a whole lot of singers that make me go, well, now that's different. But that singer for that band, he's different. He's passionate. He loves what he does. And the
yes.
guitar player, I mean, it's a great band. If I had a record label and I was looking to sign somebody, I would sign them first. You know.
Oh,
So
that song, I think it's called Chaotic Resemblance to a song called, I think it's a new song of theirs. I think it's called The Lamb of God. I think that's
oh
the
yeah,
name of it.
that's a great
That's
one.
a
I love
phenomenal.
Alter. I love Alter, and I love I can't remember what the title of the one where they have a video of it. It's for talking about how he's in prayer and he falls asleep and talks about my flesh was weak. I'm like, if I confess that my flesh was weak because I fell asleep, I'm 59 years old. I fall asleep all the time. But I'm like, but I think the way they write their songs, they're good at bringing scripture into to their songs, and everyone has a different songwriting style. Um, Michael from Striper writes about whatever it is he feels. My songs and what the Brave sings about, and a lot of them, some of them are even birthed when I'm talking to John or I'm talking to Malcolm, and we get an idea together. Malcolm will say, "Hey, here's a cool title," or John will say, "Hey, why don't we do something musically like this?" And we lean on each other like that, right? But I'm not one of those guys that's so much a scripture writer guy. Chaotic Resemblance does a fantastic job of bringing Old Testament and New Testament into the lyrics of their songs and phrasing it in a way that I never would have thought of. And I love bands that inspire me like that. You know, Bride, Bride, the way Dale and Troy put their songs together, they've got their own style. They've got their own thing of they could talk. They're one of the few bands that can really talk about anything. You know, one of my favorite songs in the world was written. I don't know who actually wrote it, but I know it was when John was producing Petra, because Petra and us, we had the same producers, John and Daniel Elefante, right? But there's a
Nice.
song called "Counsel of the Holy." It has a few things that reference scripture, but what a message! Talking about the living word of God, wisdom cries for all to read. That's one of the best. Dino had to have something to do with that because Dino was always so good at just finding that one line that you would go, wow. A lot of the folks that listen to our stuff, they always reference the way we sounded with John and Dino and how it seems like I've just kind of picked up and carried on with that. Well, that's kind of true because I was the only one that was always there. If it was getting cut at Pachyderm, I was there. I would always I was just a studio rat. I would sit there and just learn and watch, not knowing how I was going to get to that place. Songwriting wise, I already knew I was on board. I was a member of the people that write songs and quality songs, I think, and with great spiritual meaning. But the studio part of it, I had to learn. There was a time where I couldn't even change the strings on my guitar. My brother would always do it for me, but I could play the heck out of it. I didn't know how to string it. Now, I mean, that's a long time ago. But I do think that the way that Pachyderm influenced me as a musician and a songwriter, uh, Dino, from lyrical standpoints and real thought provoking. Dino was a great lyricist. I mean, I don't think he gets enough credit for that, but he was involved with this new Human Code record, which is another great band that I think of. Great new band, Some I've got their new album, I've got their new shirts. You're welcome. I represent. I'm ordering chaotic resemblance shirts. I represent, you know. I'm a big fan of supporting the bands that are out there. Um, and I love that there's a song called uh, uh, "Don't Kill the Messenger." Man, what a song! I wish that's one of those songs I wish I would have written, but they did a fantastic job on it. Um, but yeah, I mean that's what that song. Long story short, that's what that song's about. So
That's cool. That's cool. So talk about. I'm fixing to play y'all's new single, and Norman, you'll want to hear this. It's called "Rise Again." Talk
rise
about what
again.
that song's about.
Well, people don't talk enough about how important it is that Christ did what he did. I mean, the only way I think I could look death in the face is if we were at the time of, you know, and we're getting scarily close to the end times. My wife and I were having this discussion the other day of what if it came down, you got kids, you got grandkids, and what if it came down to them, it's take a bullet or profess Christ. If you profess Christ, you're going to take, I'm sorry, you profess Christ and have to take a bullet, or you get to live and just see what this world has left to offer. And I told my wife, I said, I would want my kids to know my legacy is this is how real Jesus is. Kill me now. Because I'm not gonna sell it, I'm not gonna sell out and say, whatever's in it for the short term, I would do that. I would let them execute me if it came down to me having to choose Jesus or life. Because Jesus is life. And those of us who know that, and all I'm going to see is a flash, and I'm going to be with Jesus. That's fine. If that's what I have to do for Jesus to know that the way He stood up for me, I'd stand up for Him. When you read the lyrics to Rise Again, the Romans had to be walking around going, "Hey man, who's this man that's saying he's going to die for me?" They thought he wanted to have political power or be a king, and he's like, "No, no, no. Take me, nail me up, and I'll rise again. This I do so you will never feel the pain." I write it from, questioning about, well, who is this Jesus guy? And then in the chorus, it's Jesus himself talking, take me, nail me up, and I'll rise again. I'll rise again. You can look throughout history, and even people that were pagans or just non-believers will tell you about how did 11 of the 12 disciples die for Jesus. What was it about? If he didn't appear to them after his death, there's no way they would have been willing to die the way that they did by continually professing this guy that they walked with, that they knew. And they had to have had proof, like a living, risen Christ coming back to him. So when I wrote that song, I wanted to talk about the testament of he literally died for us. Some people just listen to he shed his blood for me as just a saying. No, man, he was the sacrificial lamb. He let them put stakes through his hands and his feet and a spear in his side. So when I write songs and I know they're being given to me from the Holy Spirit, this is one of them. And it gives me chills sometimes when I hear that chorus because this dark world needs to hear a message like this. You know,
Yes.
if you had the choice to die, which Jesus did, he said, "Don't you know I could summon all the angels of heaven right now to rescue me?" But he didn't. He laid it all down for us. I hope it never comes to the point where I got to lay it all down in that manner for him, but I would do it. But he did it. And
and
he had to watch his father turn away from him for a minute because of the sin. You know, but he did it, knowing how much pain he was going to go through before he even got to the cross. They beat the living daylights out of this guy, and he still didn't turn away. I mean, that's true.
that's powerful.
So that's what I wrote that song about, was a little bit of our perspective, a little bit of Christ's perspective at the time of death.
And Pilate. It's sad that Pilate, like, so you ever watch The Chosen?
Yeah, yeah,
I love The Chosen, and
powerful.
uh, I don't think they've come out with a new season yet, but I'm up to season 4, I think it is.
I'm
But
only
it's
into
just
two.
oh, you'll love the season 3. But it's amazing that um, Pilate knew the right thing to do. He
Yep.
knew that Jesus was innocent,
Yeah.
but yet this idiot, this dummy, decides to still crucify him. I mean, wow! Imagine if and nobody really knows. I don't guess, but I heard that. the story goes after Jesus died, they say Pilate eventually drove himself crazy and killed himself because of
I've
that.
heard that too. I've heard a couple different versions of that, but yeah, I mean, how could you live with yourself knowing that you did something to not only an innocent man, but if you found out later that he came back and you got it from a believable source, I mean, how small would you feel? You
That's
know,
right. So
I
I'm gonna
mean,
play this song. I want everybody to tell us what you think, but this is called Rise Again. This is track number 6. I don't know if you can hear this or not playing, but
no, I can't.
okay.
But I hope everybody else can. That's a fun song. Powerful tune. One of my favorites.
And it's probably because StreamYard, you'd have to be on Facebook to hear it playing.
Probably when I got on Facebook a while ago, I couldn't see anything. Probably sending me a bunch of Oh, am I looking at your feed here?
You should be.
Yeah, I can have that. I didn't know that I could. I've never been on StreamYard. Skillet, yes,
Cool.
already in some of these vocals. I wanted to be a baptized Christian since as young as I can remember. So I can't see all of it, but I can see. Oh, there it is. Wow, this is pretty cool. Christian Metal Chat, is that what you're in?
Yes, I'm on. Yeah, Coon Hunters Outdoors Ministries.
So yeah, we're probably not going to work on another record for probably until maybe toward the end of this year. I've got some other things I'm working on.
I love this song.
That's so cool. Appreciate it. Are you to the second verse yet?
Till all eternity.
I'm going to run to a restroom break real quick. Right back. All right. And get another period.
Wow, that guitar solo at the end was cool. And Norman says it's very jamming 80s. The tempo change is legit. That's a banger.
Um,
Thank you, Norman. Yeah, Norman, you gotta subscribe to these guys on Spotify, wherever you buy your music. They have CDs too.
yep. Thanks, Norm.
uh, yeah, that's a good song right there. Yeah, I agree with Norman. That's a banger. Uh, that song,
Thank you, man.
it's a great message in that song. Everybody needs to hear that message. And what's the name of the new album?
Carnival of Sins.
Carnival of Sins. Okay.
Yeah.
Do y'all have that on CD yet?
Yep.
Okay, good. I need to get an autographed copy of that. I need to get
No,
all your albums.
not a problem. Just send me your mailing address, and I'll get all three of them out to you tomorrow.
Okay, deal. I'll do that.
On
That's awesome.
Thursday, not tomorrow. I won't be at work tomorrow, but I'll be there on Thursday.
Okay. Um, so it's your grocery store. You said you run a grocery store. Please tell me
Yeah.
you play y'all's music in the grocery store.
Yep. That's all I do. Work at my
Okay.
grocery store, make a living, and then come home and spend it on guitars.
So so do y'all play y'all's music to the speakers at your grocery store?
No, most people there, um, they want to hear either country or 70s music, and I just keep it light. But my wife has played it there, but I don't. So when I'm
Okay.
there, I usually use the radio as a kind of a spiff. It's like whoever has done good today, you can pick whatever the music is tomorrow.
Oh,
So,
that's cool.
but I
I'm
will tell you this about my grocery store: is I do all the shipping, and we sell thousands of CDs. So I'll go over to the post office with 3 or 4 bushels of CDs going all over the world, and they're like, "What are you doing? What is it you do?" And I go, "I'm in a Christian rock band, and we have fans all over the world, so I ship these out all the time. I'm over there 2 or 3 times a week. So
that is awesome.
and we sell out a lot. There's a lot of people, distributors, that there are some people that have wanted to sign us to deals and stuff, and I'm like, I'm already doing everything a record label does, and I can control the flow and the tempo of what we do, and I like that. Um, we may work with a few people. I think we're talking to somebody right now about helping us with our social media and our promotions. So to maybe get the name out there
Awesome.
more, because we were never a huge band. Um, but I would venture to say right now we're making some of the best music that's out there as far as sing-alongable rock music that you could enjoy with a great message. So, and we're consistent. I mean, if you get EVs or if you get Gravedigger or if you get Carnival of Sins, we've put those out 3 albums over 4 years. Um, that's as quick as Striper or anybody else.
Oh
And
yes.
I know we've got 2 or 3 more albums in us before I start thinking I'm a little too old and gray to do it. But while I've still got the voice and I've still got the chops, I'm going to keep on writing with the guys and putting it out there and proclaiming, the beauty of Jesus. So
I'm a so I don't know if you've seen on my Facebook or not, but I'm an announcer at a dirt track,
yeah, I saw.
and it's pretty cool because it's called Tri County Speedway, which Norman's been there, and it's in South Alabama. It's about an hour and 18-minute drive from my house to go to work on weekends.
Yeah,
And I love my weekend job up there, and the Day family that runs it are Christians, so
right,
they don't mind that I tell people about Jesus. And so, because I volunteer with Jason at the radio station. We play a lot of Christian music. We play Christian worship in the mornings, and then during the day we mix Christian worship with Christian rap and Christian rock music. And then at night, we play a lot of underground Christian rap. But then at night we have a show at midnight called Midnight Mayhem, and we play nothing but Christian rock all night till the morning.
right on.
And so I know a lot of Christian artists. I go to a lot of Christian concerts. So because I'm the announcer, I get to try to thank you, Norman. God loves you, Norman. Thanks for watching, my man. And so I try to play a lot of Christian music PA system at the racetrack because I'm in charge of the music. But sadly, we'll get complaints saying, "Oh, that's too loud, that's too hard, or I can't understand the words." I'm like, "Well, daggum, you know." So I have to mix in my country music, but I still do mix in my Christian music because I think
That's cool.
everybody needs to hear about Jesus.
That's pretty awesome, man. Love
And
it.
so now I'm going to try to mix some of y'all's music into the playlist because I know another group that I'm a huge fan of is and play their music. And so, um, and I play their song. So, have you ever listened to Applehead?
I've never heard them. I know of them, but I've never heard them. No.
Oh, I'll send you some of their music. So, Greg Minier, I hope I'm not butchering your name, but Greg's been on my show. He's super awesome, and then he's got Jamie Milliard, who's the bass player, and they're currently looking for a drummer. And Greg's got a powerful testimony. Their music is pretty much y'all's style of music because he started out in 1992, and Applehead was a solo project. And then for years, then they broke up. The solo project broke up, went for years, and then now he's brought the name back, and now they're looking to be a full time band. And their music is exactly y'all's style. And their new album they just dropped is called The Light Side of the Apple, and I'll have to send it to you, and you can tell me what you
Definitely. I'll check them out.
think.
Definitely.
So, and we're praying for you, Norman. Thanks for watching, buddy.
Thanks, Norman.
Uh, so it's been a really great show. I love that song. Do you have anybody you want to shout out? Any Bible verse? Any? What's your favorite Bible verse?
Probably, I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. I plan to prosper you and not to harm you. That's something that I've always stuck with whenever I don't really know what's coming up around the corner. I've always leaned on the fact that no matter how things get, this company I have, it's not my first one. It's about my sixth or seventh one. There's been
Wow.
many times in my life where I really don't know what's coming up around the corner. I was also a real estate agent when the real estate market crashed, but I never ever lose. People always tell you that I'm a pretty optimistic guy. I'm a pretty I don't look at the negative Nancy side of life. I'm always thinking that no matter what it is, God has a plan and He's going to heal whatever's wrong in my life. He knows already where I'm headed. Just because I can't see around the corner doesn't mean there isn't any road. So I think that's a verse that I've always clung to my whole life.
Wow, that is awesome. Because let's see, Jason says so. Jason commented from the radio station's YouTube. There, it's either him or his wife, and their favorite is Numbers 6:24 through 26. I'm gonna read that. And it says, let's see, it's the NIV version. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you
Love it.
and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. Wow, that's
Yes,
awesome.
that's beautiful.
That is awesome. And
Yeah.
that verse you just read to me that was your favorite. It speaks to me because I just had hernia surgery about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I've been out of work for quite a while and going to be out of work until sometime in February. And
Wow.
it sucks being so long out of work, but I know that I know because I've been praying and praying a while for about something, and I know that God's got something big in store for me. I don't know what it is. I just know that whatever He's got for me is better than what I want or what I can imagine. I know what I want to do, but it's really ultimate. If it's God's will, let Him
Right.
do whatever He wants to do instead of me, what I want to do. Because and He sees stuff that could hurt us, and He sees stuff and blocks us
That's right.
from getting whatever because He knows that it could harm us. Like for instance, I was talking about this recently. Several months ago at my job, they had a position open up for a parts counter position at the Mac dealership I work for, and I was all fired up and excited. I was like, "Yeah, man, I really want this. I'd be good at this because I could sell ice to Eskimos." I said,
Right.
I'm a really good salesman. I could do this, do that." And And so I went and did the job interview with the manager and listed all my skills. I was like, I've built websites. I've built 3 websites. I run like 15, 16 social media pages on Facebook and groups. And I just listed all these different things and I listed all my previous job qualifications. And then by the end of the interview, the manager was so impressed. He said, "Hey, uh, I'm just going to go ahead and be honest with you. You're by far one of the best that I've interviewed." And now he didn't say I was number one on the list, but it sounded like I had a really good interview. And I shook his hand. I was like, "Well, thank you," and I appreciate it. And so went on, and I kept praying and was hoping I'd get it. Well, then they ended up hiring 2 other people instead of me. And at first, I was like, it's kind of. Then I said to myself, I said, you know what? There's no sense in me getting mad about that because God's got something better for me. So he blocked that from happening because he saw what would have happened to me if I'd have got it, whatever.
Right.
So now I'm just rolling with whatever he's got because everything, I've always said that everything happens for a reason. And
Hmm.
so when I got hurt at work, I said, well, God's got me hurt because something big's coming up. Well, then once I got out of the surgery and got discharged from the hospital the next day from my hernia surgery, I got to thinking about it completely different. Yes, I still see the other side of it, but I also see that God had me get hurt so I could go to that hospital. And every single doctor that I come in contact with, every doctor, every nurse, every CNA, every person that had anything to do with me, I asked them the exact same question. I said, "Hey, do you know Jesus?" And every one of them told me yes. And 2 of them, I was like, I don't know if they really do, but maybe they do. But there was at least 4 different ones that I actually had full on conversations with about how awesome God is. And so I feel like God had me get hurt so I could go tell those people about Jesus because they
That's
wouldn't have
exactly right.
probably wouldn't have got to hear it if I hadn't have got hurt. So now I'm not even mad that I had. And then plus the doctor went in and fixed everything that was messed up from my previous surgery that I had. So it was a
Nice.
blessing.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome. I just saw that in action. I have a friend of mine who's a believer. He's also a musician, and he's been waiting for 6 years for a kidney. And
Wow.
my wife and I took a little vacation a week ago, and the day before we left, he was at this house that we were at. We were all invited to come and watch somebody view their pictures of going to Africa. So there were 4 or 5 couples there, and he was one of them. And he was looking a little peaked, and one of the guys had asked, said, "Well, you're on a list to get a kidney, right? Because he's on dialysis and has been for 6 years." And he goes, "Yeah." And they go, "Well, what's the life expectancy?" And he says, 6 to 8 years. And he goes, "What year are you on?" Because we could tell he was looking a little flushed, right? And the guy says, his name is Mike. He's just a real sweet guy, a real cool brother. And he goes, "Well, I'm on year 6." And it just kind of, there was a, in the air, we were all just kind of like worried for him because we all care about him, right? I get a text the next morning. He said he's on the waiting list, and we left. I prayed for him, and I'm sure several of the other people from there that night prayed for him. And out of nowhere, I get this text the next morning. This is a week ago. Says, "Dude, I'm on my way to USC to get my new kidney." Out of nowhere. He hadn't heard
Wow.
anything. It blew my mind. And I've seen God move like that and so many times that you're exactly right. You The term bad and good situations, doesn't matter how we define what situation we're in, that it's always part of a plan, you know? So you're right. You may not have gotten that gig, but that gig might have taken you out of being able to witness to 3 people, you know?
That's
So
exactly right. That's exactly. Wow. That's a good. I'm glad you said that. That's a good way to look at it. I
it's
didn't think
true.
of
We
it
live
like
it.
that.
I mean, we see it all the
Yeah.
time. So
And I told that doctor, his name was Dr. Edward Otts was his name, and he was one of the ones that told me he knew Jesus. And I didn't ask him like what church he goes to or anything like that, but like I could tell when he said it, he meant it. And so we had a conversation about it when I first met him on my pre-surgery consultation, and then uh, the next day he comes in to the hospital room because normally when you have a hernia surgery, you go home that evening.
Yeah.
Well, he come in and he was talking to me and my dad because he told us it was going to take an hour and a half because I asked him. Well, then he come in the next day and well, we before he was discharged, and then he said, "Hey, I just want to let you know it took me 3.5 hours to do your surgery." And I was like, "Wow!" And he's like, "Yeah, normally an hour and a half." And he said, and basically he had to go in and fix everything because the the previous hernia surgery I had, the doctor went in and he did it the old school way that they don't do it no more.
Yeah.
And he's like, and he wasn't going to bash the other doctor because he didn't know him, but he just said that he's like, I don't do it this way. And the way he did it was a very old school way. And it's not, I'm not saying malpractice, but he did it this way. And I wouldn't have done it that way. He put tax in there and, did this and did that. Well, basically, I had to go in and fix everything that basically he messed up from not doing it the new way. And I went over there and I said, God loves you. Thank you for saving me. And I went over there and hugged him. And I've never done that before. And
That's pretty cool.
uh, that meant a lot to me. And so then the other day, and he cleared me to drive last Thursday. And so before I was able to drive, I always make these pocket crosses here, or not
Mhm.
pocket crosses, but these are handmade wooden crosses. And I make them out of cedar and I put some American made nails on the bottom or screws.
That's
And I
cool.
always stain it. I stain it and I take my little wood burner and put the Bible verse on there, and you can't really see it because it's too dark. But this one, I put Genesis 27:3 on there. And then I made one just for him. I put his name on there with a wood burner. And then I burned Isaiah 53:5 on there and I gave it to him
That's awesome.
Thursday. And he thought that was the coolest thing ever. And he thanked me immensely. He said, "You know what?" He said, "I'm going to put that on my desk in my office." And so, and I told him that meant so much to me that he got me fixed correctly and saved me from getting hurt really bad. So I said, "You know what? I'm going to do something nice for him."
And how many times is that cross going to start a conversation? With future
Oh,
patients. That's pretty cool.
who? Yes, who knows? Who knows? And in fact, let me find. All right, so I got something really cool if I can find them. I got my pocket crosses here somewhere. Let's see if I can find these.
Hey,
Okay,
just
here
a
we
fair
go.
just a fair warning. I didn't have a chance to charge my phone, and it's down to about 7%. So I don't know how long I've got.
Okay. Well, I'm going to show you this real quick, and we'll end the show on this note.
Yeah, I love what you're doing,
So,
man. It's cool.
thank you. So this is episode 70, which means I've done a bunch of these,
No
and
kidding. That's awesome.
I yes, and I hope to get to 100. And thanks to Jason for the help with the.
That's awesome.
So okay, so this is you can buy these pocket crosses here that I got in my hand. They're from this company called Agora. You can look them up. They're out of Georgia,
Cool.
and
I can see it. Yeah, it's cool.
I'm big into anything American made. If it's made in China, I don't want it. Well, these are
Right.
handmade in Georgia out of aluminum, and on the front it says God loves you, and it's got a dove on the bottom of it. And
Cool.
then on the back, I get them to put my verse on there, Isaiah 53:5, King James. So they put that they stamp that on the back. And these pocket crosses are neat because you can get them in silver or you get the anodized aluminum colors.
Yeah.
And then if you get any wood pocket crosses from them, they make wood ones, they make other wood stuff. The wood actually comes from Jerusalem, which is
Wow.
cool.
That's
And the
way
front's
cool.
is very cool. And the
What is it?
front's got
What are they
my
called?
they're called Cross in My Pocket is the name of the company. And you can go to crossinmypocket.com. And I usually buy 40 at the time because that's what's in my budget. I'd buy more, but I
Yeah,
don't make a
Agora. I
lot.
see it.
Yeah, that's it right there. And it's a nice lady. I can't think of her name, but I got her cell number and I text her every time I want to order. And they make all different colors. The colored ones are cool, but the color will kind of rub off some. But these silver are really cool aluminum. And so the
Oh,
front
I
of the
see the
card's got
aluminum ones. Yeah, I see it at the top.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then so it's got my verse on this side. The blank side I had customized. But on the other side, I'm gonna read this to you. And it says it says the cross in my pocket. I carry a cross in my pocket, a simple reminder to me of the fact that I am a Christian, no matter where I may be. This little cross is not magic, nor is it a good luck charm. It isn't meant to protect me from every physical harm. It's not for identification for all the world to see. It's simply an understanding between my Savior and me. When I put my hand in my pocket to bring out a coin or key, the cross is there to remind me of the price he paid for me. It reminds me to be thankful for my blessings day by day and to strive to serve him better in all that I do and say. It's also a daily reminder of the peace and comfort I share with all who know my master and give themselves to his care. So I carry a cross in my pocket, reminding no one but me that Jesus Christ is Lord of my life, if only I'll let him be. Isn't that cool? Oh, and his phone just died. But yeah, that's a very cool. If y'all get a chance, look up the company Agora, crossinmypocket.com. Yeah, Verna Thomas Agora Incorporated. I guess that's who wrote the Cross in My Pocket thing. But they make these and they send them in bags. I got a bunch of these. I think I got 40 of these, or I may have already given some out. But I like the colored ones too. And if you get the wood crosses, they're made from wood that comes from Jerusalem, whatever kind of wood it is. I never really asked them. I don't guess, but I'm okay with that. That it comes from Jerusalem. You know, I'm usually all American, but hey, something like that's pretty cool. So, but yeah, y'all check out the company. There's the website on the bottom of the card, crossinmypocket.com. But I appreciate Stacey Roberts coming on the show. We're gonna end it. Um, really great show, and he warned me his phone was about to die, so I was gonna end it anyways. But I want to say a prayer for everybody. Thank you to my awesome friend Norman for watching. I think that's the first show Norman's watched of mine. So thank you, Norman. Me and Norman's been friends for a long, long time. He's sad that we live too far away from each other, but I will come and see you pretty soon, Norman, hopefully. And oh wait, there he is. Let's see.
There we are.
Oh, okay, cool.
I
So
got
did you
kicked
get to
out.
hear
Sorry.
the?
I
That's all
heard
right.
most of it. Yes.
So yes, and in fact, I'll just go ahead and read it again. This is just too cool. It says, "The cross in my pocket, I carry a cross in my pocket, a simple reminder to me of the fact that I am a Christian, no matter where I may be. This little cross is not magic, nor is it a good luck charm. It isn't meant to protect me from every physical harm. It's not for identification for all the world to see. It is simply an understanding between my Savior and me. When I put my hand in my pocket to bring out a coin or key, the cross is there to remind me of the price he paid for me. It reminds me to be thankful for my blessing day by day and to strive to serve him better in all that I do and say. It's also a daily reminder of the peace and comfort I share with all who know my master and give themselves to his care. So I carry a cross in my pocket reminding no one but me that Jesus Christ is Lord of my life, if only I'll let him be."
It's beautiful. I love
That
it.
is very cool. And it's got the three crosses in the background. And so that's what their standard cards come with. And then the backside's blank, so you can get whatever you want on the backside, which is
Nice.
cool.
That's
And
very cool. That's a cool ministry to have.
and here's the idea for you. So I listen to, of course, I work for Quake Radio, and I listen to two other Christian radio stations. I listen to Revocation Radio out of Birmingham, and then I listen to ChristianRock.net. And of course, ChristianRock.net's a big conglomerate station because they have like 4 or 5 stations under
Yeah.
one thing. But one thing I like is they have a thing they do called Evangelism Minute with
Hmm.
Pastor Dave Chafee from Agents for Christ Ministries. And so I got to looking it up. Agents for Christ is a ministry that goes out and tries to be agents for Christ to win people to Jesus. And this segment they'll do like 6, 7 songs in a row because they don't do commercials.
Yeah.
And then they'll stop and then they'll go into the music and they'll say, "This is Evangelism Minute with Pastor Dave Chafee for Ages for Christ Ministries." And when they get done saying that, he'll speak for about a minute, 2 minutes. Well, this one, he said, he talked about witnessing tracks. Because I love passing out witnessing tracks like the life books the Gideons give you, and then these. And so he said, when you pass out witnessing tracks, the cool thing about witnessing tracks is one, they don't talk back. Two, they're just there. Three, they just listen. And whatever, regardless of what anybody does with it, whether they throw it away or they set it down somewhere, somebody always ends up with it. And that's pretty
That's right.
cool to know.
That's right. That is cool.
And I've
Absolutely.
never thought about that. And the way he explained it was so awesome because we as humans, we tend to, argue back or talk back. And sometimes that's not what's needed. And with that witnessing track, it's just there. It's not going to argue with you. It's just
Right.
in plain sight.
And God uses it. I mean, that's the bottom line, you know?
Yes. And here's something to think about. I don't know if just the idea. Say if you was to order some of these and had y'all's logo and your verse on the back or whatever, these crosses, and they got different ones. I just like the one that says God loves you with the dove on there, but they got other ones too.
Yeah.
Um, if you had some, and if somebody bought a CD, you sent
Hand
one
them
with
out.
that
Yeah. That's
CD,
a good idea.
or even the next time you do shows, because Striper has always been known for giving out Bibles. Y'all could pass out something like this to everybody that comes to a show.
Great idea. I love it. The key is just getting to play live. But
Yes.
but we could do that with our CDs because we send a lot of them out. I mean, if you're not sending out
Uh oh. Oh yes. Look, Jason. I I can't wait till Stacy gets back in here. It just got kicked him off again. But We As Human, I am a huge We As Human fan. I've only got one of their CDs. They only made 2 albums. And sadly, the band broke up. And it's sad why they broke up. I know the story of why they broke up. And I can't remember what's his name. He was helping with the Grizzly Awards. He's on my friends list on Facebook. I see him all the time. Oh, there he is. Well, they must have kicked him out again. Oh, oh my, Justin Forshaw. Justin Forshaw. That dude is awesome. I want to say either he was the lead guitarist or the lead singer for We As Human. I forgot which one, but he did play with them. Of course, he was with As We Ascend. As We Ascend had done music lately. I wish they would get back together. I wish We As Human would get back together. But man, We As Human is a phenomenal band. I saw them at Winter Jam um, the year that the Newsboys was at Winter Jam. And I was like, who is this? And they were the very first band to open up. They had this big black curtain, and all of a sudden you just hear this big raw rock sound, and the curtain pulls away, and boom, there they come. That was the first time I ever heard of We As Human, and they are phenomenal, man. I wish they would get back together. I hate they ended up breaking up, man. I was hooked on them ever since. Yeah, Manifest. That's on my bucket list. I've seen all these bands in concert, but Manifest. And Jason has seen Manifest, Chris Greenwood in concert, and got to meet him. How cool is that, man? That's just cool. But I'm gonna get off live here. I'm gonna say a prayer to end the show out. Thank you, Stacy. His phone's dying, so that's why it's kicking him out. He just sent me a message. His phone's dying, so and then plus my phone is hot. My phone is so hot I can't even hold it. I don't know why, but my phone's been getting super, super hot here lately. I ordered a battery for it. I'm ready to get a new phone because this thing, I don't know, this phone's never done this before. I've had this phone 2 years and it's been getting so hot here lately, I can't hold it. Golly, that phone's on fire. But anyways, I'm gonna say a prayer to end the show out. And thank you, Lord, for a good show. Thank you, everybody, for coming in. Thanks for sharing. Dear Lord, thank you for this good show. Thank you for Stacy. Thank you for Jason with the radio station. Thank you for Stacy's ministry, the brave. Thank you, Norman, all my other friends that got to watch, comment. Appreciate everybody that's watching, still watching, and share the show. Y'all are a real blessing. Thank you, Lord, about what you're about to bless me with next. Thank you for the path you have me on. Thank you for Dr. Otts. Thank you for everybody at that hospital that saved me in my surgery. Thank you for letting me get stronger. And it's been an awesome week. Thank you, dear Lord. And please bless our friend Mr. Brian Littleton. Bless him with his race logic chassis school this week. I'm not able to make that, but bless him and the safety summit he's doing. Thank you so much. In Jesus Christ's name I pray. Amen. Great show, y'all. See y'all later. God loves you. Jesus saves. Oh, and by the way, did y'all know that Chuck Norris can make a slinky go upstairs? Chuck Chuck Norris. Uh, when Chuck Norris was in school, he ripped the periodic table of elements off the wall because the only element he needed was the element of surprise. We'll see y'all later. Bye.